Hey, songwriters, listen, if you're on the climb and you want to create success in the music business, there are just certain things you just need to know. And we're going to talk about some of them today. So, this is free advice that will hopefully help you make money in the music business. Johnny, I'll go ahead and do your thing.
Welcome to the climb. This is a show dedicated to helping singers, songwriters, and indie artists like you create leverage in the music business. This is the new music business, and it requires a new way of thinking if you want to succeed, if you want to reach an audience, if you want to do better, if you the record deal, the management company, the booking agency, all those things that you think you need are going to come to you, not because of your talent, because of your business, because of what you've already done. And so that's what's going to create leverage for you. It's why we called it the C.L.I.M.B, C.L.I.M.B, creating leverage in the music business. That's a Baxter name. That's from my good friend and co-host, Mr. Brent Baxter. Brent is an award-winning hit songwriter with cuts by Alan Jackson, Randy Travis, Lady A, Joe Nichols, and more. Got a couple number ones in Southern Gospel last year and continues to be trucking on here. I love Brent because he helps songwriters like you become pro by revealing how you write like a pro, do business like a pro, and then after you've got competitive product, the most important part of it is relationships, and he connects you to the pros on a regular basis. You get those opportunities. So you can find Brent very easily at songwritingpro.com. Once again, that's songwritingpro.com.
And I would like to introduce you to my co host, Johnny Dwinell. Johnny owns Daredevil Production. They're breaking artists digitally by identifying new fans through data. If you're an artist looking to increase your streams, blow up your video views, sell more live show tickets, and get discovered by new fans, TV, and music industry pros, then Daredevil Production can help. Daredevil has worked with multi-platinum artists like Colin Ray, Tracy Lawrence, Ty Herndon, and Andy Griggs, just to name a few. You can find Johnny at daredevilproduction.com. That is production, singular, no S. And there's no S because there is no other Johnny D.
All right.
Delightful.
I'm
Hey,
super excited. We are like less than 2 weeks out from going to Denmark.
that's right. So, as I just found out, almost live on the air last time. So, yeah, super stoked
And
about
now,
that.
now you're going. Now you're
Now I'm
going.
going.
We are officially announcing that you will be going.
I will be going to Denmark for the National Nights International Songwriter Festival. So, I'm
That's
pumped.
September 17th through the 19th.
That's right. I'm pumped to get out of the house. I mean, to go to Denmark. I mean, to get out of the house and go to Denmark.
To do the job, to do work. To do work is what I
to
mean.
do the things and help people away from my family.
My man.
Oh, that's funny. No, I wish I could take my wife. So anyway,
What are we going to learn today?
all right, man. Today, I've been in the music business for a while, and I've fallen on my face enough, and had some times where I had success enough that just kind of what we've been doing the last couple of episodes is just like distilling some of that stuff I've learned from my years in the business, successes and failures, and just making bullet points out of them, and just want to share the stuff with writers to get their heads right for the journey. So that's really what this is. This stuff you can pack in your suitcase and will help you on your journey. So we're just going to go into some of that stuff today.
Love it, man. 2020 hindsight is always 2020, you know?
It is, and the truth ain't always pretty, but it's always true.
So before we do that, let's get to some business. We need artists to submit recorded songs and lyrics to be a part of Video Content Challenge.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have more than a music video and a lyric video if you want to effectively promote your music today. You're going to need a lot of other promotional content,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody gets stuck on those ideas. And so here we are to help you understand
For free.
how to think about that for nothing.
For the
For
cost of an
nothing.
email.
That's right. So send your recorded song, and we want a master track, by the way. I've gotten a couple that were clearly like from songwriters and their song demos,
Mm-hmm.
and these just aren't tracks that would be promoted. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this. First of all, this writer isn't trying to be an artist. You know what I mean? So it's like I love the enthusiasm, but we need tracks that you are going to be putting up on Spotify and trying to sell because you want to be an artist, right?
Mm-hmm.
So not song demos and that kind of stuff. So send that to info@daredevilproduction.com. Production is singular. There is no S. Put VCC or Video Content Challenge in the subject line, and we're going to get you on the show. We're going to play your song on the show,
Mm-hmm.
and then we're going to start cooking up all kinds of different content ideas that you can put together that will actually give you a framework for promoting this song. And hopefully, I mean, the idea behind this is to get you flexing that muscle on how to think about every subsequent release.
Yeah, not only helps
You
this
know,
song, it's gonna help you think about every next release. And that's the thing too, it's like these don't have to be unreleased to the world, like it hitting that sweet spot, like I've recorded it, but no one's heard it yet. That's the only stuff I can send in. No, it could be a 10-year-old song that you've already released and had out there. Like, well,
yeah,
this was on iTunes for a while. That's fine. You can send that stuff in too, because we may help you cook up some stuff for like zero or very minimal cost. None of it coming to us, but just for yourself, that may breathe a whole new life into this release and get it in front of eyeballs that never saw it, and it's brand new to them. Just because it's not new to you doesn't mean it's not brand new to everybody else that hadn't seen it. So don't be afraid to send in that kind of stuff, because again, this doesn't cost you anything to send it to us and to get our free advice on that. So don't be afraid to send in something that's already been out in the wild.
there we go. So send that stuff in. We want to give a shout out to say that it's American Songwriter Magazine. We're always proud as peacocks to be a part of the American Songwriter Magazine podcast network. This is the 36-year-old brand name, and now we are official correspondents to the Nashville Nights International Songwriter
Right.
Festival in Denmark, September 17th through the 19th.
That's right.
There are packages available for Americans who want to go over there, discount packages. So make sure you reach out for that. I think you go to you could email fan@nashvillenights.dk because it's Denmark. So it's not .com, it's .dk, but fan@nashvillenights.dk, and you can get packages for the discount packages to go over there if you want to fly over and hang with us. You're talking 100 artists, 70 shows, 9 venues, 3 days.
Tons of
And
fun.
yeah, big writers too. Tim
Mhm.
Nichols wrote "Live Like You Were Dying" and Heads California, Tails Carolina. We've got Bobby Pinson going over there, who had the triple play
Mhm.
last year, right? 3 number ones at the same time. There's going to be a boatload of European artists that are phenomenal. And so here's a great opportunity for you to uh, make some connections. If you're a songwriter, man, make some connections.
Mhm.
Be hanging out, talking to these people and creating relationships rather than trying to send them something. And for 3 days, they're all gonna be hanging out, having a good time,
Yeah.
not like, working in the same way that it's gonna, this is the time to go in and make a relationship and say, "Hey,
Yeah.
wanna hear my song?" Is it and find other writers in your own class there because there's gonna be a lot
Yeah.
of writers there, and, man, you're gonna be watching performances, they're gonna be breaking down songs, and there's gonna be panels,
Mhm.
there's gonna be writing workshops going on, there's a lot of stuff going on, and not for nothing, be hanging out and rubbing elbows with Blue and Stefan,
Mhm.
and maybe securing your spot for the next festival
That's right.
that happens
And
as a
Denmark
writer.
is doing great with COVID right now, so that's like I'm not worried about that going over. And
They're
heck,
lifting all restrictions on
September 10th.
the 10th
Yep. So if you can get
in
there,
Denmark.
it's pretty much all good. So, but also, I mean, the networking thing is that's one of the things I'm most excited about. I'm excited about going to see some shows, but man, it's like I can't wait to, as correspondents, have a good excuse to talk to every single stinking person that's
That's
involved in
right.
the festival.
European artists, I mean, some of the European artists like Uwe Bob, I mean, 500,000-600,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. Um, uh, Lisa Ekdahl from Sweden, like 400,000-500,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. We've got Martha Wainwright, who's Rufus Wainwright's daughter,
Easy for you to
going
say.
over there. She's got a huge audience, so I mean, you're going to be moving into Europe with
Mhm.
your connections now. And so, man, I'm super, super, super stoked about that. Tony Lane's going, what? Like,
Ah, he's awesome. He's the coolest dude on the
rid-
planet.
ridiculously cool.
Yeah.
So this is all good stuff. So hey, we're super proud to be a part of that. Join the Climb community, facebook.com/the Climb community.
Hmm.
This is a thriving, growing group, Facebook group of lots of interaction. We've got places on New Heights like every Wednesday where you can, give your wins and get shout outs, and places on Thursdays talk about your gigs that are coming up.
Hmm.
Ask questions, get hooked up with co-writes there. And we've had lucrative international co-writes get hooked up there. We've had lots of people get different ideas and support one another on different promotional ideas. Hey, what do I do if I want to do this? And everybody's like, hey, try this, try that. And it's all really good information. I mean, I don't think I've corrected anybody since we started the climb community. Usually by the time I get there, if somebody has a specific question in my lane, like about promotion and
Hmm.
everything, I just, that pointing up emoji with the finger
Yeah,
that points up. I'm like, what they said. It's all good.
the pointy finger, not the angry finger. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, the pointy finger. Yeah, not the index finger, not the middle finger.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
But,
So
so that's good stuff. Now, do we have some recent wins, Brent?
we do, we do. So this is from the New Heights post. So just sharing a couple here. Let's see. Tracy Collins Richardson says she is playing rounds, writing a lot, investing in learning opportunities, and staying positive. And that is a win on the climb because learning, doing the grind. So I love that she shared that and sees that as a
Yeah.
win because it is, because she is growing and doing her thing there. Jeff Rowe said excited to be one of the writers along with Georgia Miles and Randy Morrison on Liam Coleman's next single called She Still Drives, available everywhere on August 27th, which means it is available now. So go check out Liam Coleman and the single She
Nice.
Still Drives. So congrats, Jeff and Georgia and Randy. That's awesome.
Way to go.
Yes, another win. We have David Graham said, I had a song in Heels on Stars, the channel Stars, the show Heels. He had a song in that with his co writers, Von Daniel and Mark Preston. So good sync placement. So good job, David. Um,
Cha-ching. Do you hear
yeah,
that? That's the sound of David making money
look at
right there.
that. People with stuff, get stuff out there. And for myself, I had a song come out on record. My friend Kenna Turner West, her new project just dropped on Sunlight Records. It's called A Reason for Hope. And anyway, so my song "Calling All Prodigals," which was a single for her, is on that project, and a lot of good songs. So congrats to Kenna on her label debut, and congrats to me for having one on there. I'm pretty happy to be in the company
Congratulations,
of those other
buddy.
songs. So
Nice. I love
yes,
that.
so good stuff all the way around.
I love that. I love it. Okay, so make sure you leave a rating and review, follow the podcast, or subscribe, depending on what platform you're on. If you don't have a normal podcast platform, if you're not a podcast junkie like Brent and I, you can just go to americansongwriter.com/podcast and find the climb on there with a bunch of other great shows, by the
Mhm.
way, that are all based around songwriting, music business, or production. One of those three verticals, which is awesome.
That's
And
right.
lastly, I mean, we have a healthy, regular following here at the climb. It's always growing, and we are, thrilled, proud as peacocks to have you with us. But you don't do it out of love or some sort of want to help us out. Like,
You're not all
we
my
are
mama.
helping you help yourself. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. So we understand that, we value that, we don't take it lightly, but that's super important. We want you to tell somebody about it. Like, let them know, man, hey, this is a great podcast. There's a lot of great information on here, and you need to check this out, because if we're helping you and you're spending this kind of time, then we can help other people too, right?
That's right.
All right, so let's get into it.
All right. Well, that's a long intro, a long time to get to the meat, but hopefully good. All right. So
We had a festival to talk about.
we did a lot of stuff. So, all right. Now, certainly, I do not know everything about songwriting and how to get cuts. Right? I don't know. I'm not like the god of that. So if I were, I'd be. I don't know. I'd be phoning this in from a beach somewhere. But I have been blessed with enough success and educated by enough failures to learn a few things. So here's some free advice to hopefully help you gain some success on your climb and help you avoid some of the pitfalls that I've definitely run into. So let's just start. We'll go through a few of these, see how we're doing on time. But number one, don't try to import sand to the beach. Speaking of the beach. So basically, what this means is if your songs are doing what everybody else's songs are doing, an artist does not have a reason to cut your song. You want to be bold, you want to be innovative, you want to be daring, you want to give them a reason to cut a song that comes from outside of their already well established relationships. Like, why wouldn't they just cut if your song sounds just like a Luke Combs song. It sounds just like, boy, it sounds just like what he'd do. Well, he's probably already written plenty of those because
Mhm.
he tends to sound like Luke Combs when he writes and tends to know what Luke Combs would normally say. And so, how are you going to crack that nut with just more of the same? He's just going to cut his own stuff, or he's going to cut his buddy Corey Crowder stuff, or his, who's also, I think, a producer on him, and or his, his friends. Like, he's going to cut theirs if it's just
Yeah.
as good as yours, because that's a more fun party
Yep.
with your buddies, right? Than with the strangers.
And you do the same.
You totally would do the same. So would I.
Mhm.
No doubt. If I could give my close buddies a cut versus strangers, and the songs are as good, so it's not any skin off my nose, but makes the party a whole lot more fun, I'm gonna do that because I can't wait to call my buddies and go, "We cut your song." Come
Yep.
on. And I want to like my buddy's songs anyway. So that's a big thing. I think of this story. We did a play for a publisher event with Woody Bomar of Green Hills Music. So Woody's industry veteran. He knows what he's talking about. So we curated these songs, good songs, all the way good songs, or they wouldn't have made it to the top 10 of the event. So us and the songwriters sat down with Woody on the Zoom event and playing the song. And Woody's like, I just think of one in particular. He's like, well, that's a really good song. That is just as good as this type of song that gets on the radio. It's just as good. And you're like, that's great. This person hasn't had the song on the radio yet, this writer, and they're like, it's just as good as the stuff on the radio. It sounds like just as great. He's like, and I
Think
can't,
again.
and he's like, and I can't get that cut. You're
Yeah.
like, well, what's wrong? You're Woody Bomar. You've been in the business forever. You know who to go play it for. You can get your songs heard. And you say my song is just as good as the stuff on the radio, but I can't get that cut. What's the problem? He's like, because they're going to write it themselves, or their buddies are going to write it. I need something that's just as good or better, but different, but still fits on
Yeah.
the radio. So he talks about
Extraordinary. It's got to be something extraordinary.
It has to be. Yeah, if you're coming from outside the relationship zone, right?
Yeah.
If you don't have that extra thing to push you over the finish line, importing sand to the beach, they're not going to pay for your sand. So he mentioned songs like "I Drive Your Truck," like "Homecoming Queen" for Kelsey Ballerini, for "The House That Built Me," for "Written in the Stars," "Old Dominion." Songs that are different. There's something different about it. Or "Break Up in the End" by Cole Swindell. He mentioned songs like that they fit on radio. They make sense. They're all hits, but there's something different about them. In other words, the artist probably hasn't written a bunch of those, and you're not competing with exactly what they do well. So, and another way I have it put in is like, I'd rather be a little too raw, a little too real, a little too far than too vanilla. A little too different, a little too wow. Ooh, you really said that. Then be too vanilla, because vanilla, everyone got vanilla. They don't need my vanilla unless we're buddies or I write it with the artist. And even then, if you write with the artist, they're still writing with a lot of other really good people too. So again,
Yeah.
why would they cut yours?
Yep.
So you don't want to try and import sand to the beach. I mean, there's value in learning how to write like the radio, for sure, to go, I can do this. But looking at my own stuff, like the outside cuts, they're a little different. They're just a little different. It's a thing of giving. Don't worry about like removing all the reasons for them to say no. Right? Sometimes we get so focused on like, why would someone say no to the song, that you get rid of all the reasons for someone to say yes. Like, I'm trying to focus more on a reason to give on giving someone a reason to go, heck yeah, than I am trying to remove reasons for them to say no.
Yeah.
Because them just not having a reason to say no is not a yes. That probably just puts you in safe vanilla land. Like, I have no reason not to cut that, but I'm going to cut my buddies. I'm going to cut the one I wrote because I make more money off the one I wrote, and I was there when I wrote it, and it's more personal to me. So it's like, focus on the big swing, the big yes versus
Oh,
just not giving
there's
them a
another
no.
one. There's another big thing right there. Just the monetary part of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah, for
If
sure.
it's just as good as all these other 20 songs I'm considering that I wrote, that I co-wrote to put on my record, and yours is just as good, I'm going to choose mine.
Yeah.
Because I'll make more money on it.
Exactly. It opens up a new
Why would I
cash
choose
register.
yours? Why? This is my life, my business. Why would I choose anything different unless it has to be on the record?
Yeah.
Because I can't not have the song, right? If it's just as good as everything else, I'm going to make more money on the just as good songs that I wrote.
Exactly. and I make my buddies money that I wrote it with.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
That's a way to keep
Yeah.
your friends, right? You had to bring them a
Yeah.
song that's
You
gonna
you if you're working at a construction site, if you own a construction company and 50 guys come up to you and they can prove to you that they're just as good at swinging a hammer as your friend is,
Mhm.
and your friend needs a job, who are you gonna give the job to?
Every time, my friend.
Every single time. You
Yeah.
know, so it's just, and that doesn't mean that those guys suck at swinging hammers.
There's no reason not to hire those other guys,
Right.
but there's just a
Except
big
for
reason. But there's a big reason to hire my friend,
yeah.
right? I'm not
Yep.
anti them,
That's a good point.
I'm pro my friend.
It's a really good
When
point.
all else being equal, that's a huge tiebreaker. So it's like I don't wanna get into ties. Now, it is art. There's, we write the best we can. So there's that qualitative subjectiveness to it. But I'm trying to focus on the big yes and not worried about, well, this might be a little edgy, or this might be a little reason someone might say no. Yeah, but that might be just the reason they don't get a lot of those, and it might be the reason they love it.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
don't import Santa to
Take
people.
the chance. Take the chance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man. Yeah. I mean, all my outside songs that have been cut are just all different. They're just not
Yeah.
the normal general up tempo positive love, very much in the box. I've gotten some of those cut with artists that I've written with, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah. But now
That
the artist is on it,
artist is on it, they make
and
their
that goes into the
money.
pile of, "I'm gonna make more money on this
It's
one
a different
than
pile, and they
different
gotta really
pile."
put themselves into it, and there's all that other stuff, right?
Yeah.
So, there you go, those are 2 different tracks. Alright, speaking of which, number 2, your team matters. Build it wisely. So, it's been said, and I know, John, you've heard this, that you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Oh, yeah.
So, you wanna make sure that you're you're close to people who are gonna lift you up, not people you have to rise above. You want to be people you can rise with, not people you can rise above, which is a huge thing. So, I think of this, there's that's one reason why you're like, "Oh, man, why won't pros write with me?" Well, they're trying to write with people that are also pitching their songs, that have teams pitching their songs, that, for one thing, really know how to write a song, so they don't have to carry all the weight in the room, or at least they feel more comfortable going, if I'm not on that day, my co-writer's gonna be on that day because they're a pro. One of us is gonna be on. If they're writing with people that are unknown, they're like, I better be on today, right? It's just a
Yeah.
little more pressure on them. You're the unknown versus, hey, I know my buddy, if one of us is going to be on, it's going to be a good hang, and they have a publisher too. So if we get the right song, we can get it heard. But you want to build your team wisely. But even within like the pro ranks, I've noticed a difference between some of the people I write with that get a lot more cuts and some of the people that don't, even though they're pros. Like Kenna West. So I mentioned her earlier. She has an album out
Mhm.
with a song of mine on it. But she has mainly been, most of her career has been as a hit Southern gospel songwriter. She has over 30 number one singles as a writer,
Wow.
many
It's like Tim
awards.
McGraw level Southern gospel genre.
But yeah, she's like just swinging the lumber as a
Mhm.
writer. And so over 30 number ones, I'm like, okay, she's doing something right. What is she doing? Well, one, yeah, she writes with artists. But two, she pitches like a fiend. She is,
Mhm.
she's built relationships with these people. She knows these people. She can send them a bunch of songs. And of course, that you start that flywheel going. If you start having success, more people get exposed to you, more people want to hear your songs. But it's not like she's like, I'm Kenna, and everyone knows I've had 30 plus number ones. I'll send them a thing or two, but really, call my publisher.
Oh, wait, she's hit
No,
30 number ones as a writer, not as an
as
artist,
a
you're saying, as
writer,
a writer.
as
Oh,
a
wow, wow,
writer.
okay,
This is
okay.
like her first record as an artist.
Oh, I missed that. Okay,
So
got it,
baby
got it.
artist, but just
But massive
massive
writer. Yeah.
writer. Right. So she's not like, I've had all this stuff, I can kind of cruise. No, she is hustling for cuts. And she's not just waiting for you to call her publisher and let my publisher handle it. No, she's like, I'm hustling. I'm on, I know who's looking. I know what kind of songs they do, what kind of songs they don't do, and I'm going to send them 50. And they're going to listen
Mhm.
because they've had 30 number ones. So they know there's probably number one in there. They just got to
Mhm.
find it. Right. And I've noticed it's a different conversation when I'm writing like with her and Jason about cuts. And it's not just, it's not just about the song in the room, which that matters, but it's also like beforehand we'll be talking about, oh, I pitched this here and there, this is on hold or whatever. Oh, this just went number one. Jason, you owe me chicken. I got us a cut. I get us a cut. You owe me chicken. Bring me chicken. You know, and so my joke for "Can I Get a Witness," which I wrote with her and Jason Cox, was, "Can I get a chicken?" Because
Gotta get a chicken.
she pitched it, and so "Can I get a chicken" on "Can I Get a Witness?" Uh, so
Can I get a chicken?
can I get a chicken? Right.
That's
And but
awesome.
just like the mindset is different. It's not just I'm gonna write a great song. It's like if the job's not done till it's number one. Now, of
Yeah.
course, she can't affect the number one part, but like until it's cut. It ain't done till it's cut. Like that's the deal. And I got, I've gotten in trouble before, like pitching a song that she's on to, because I'm trying to pull my weight, so I want to pitch as well, right? So I'm like, yeah, I'm learning the Southern gospel thing. I can start pitching to some people, so I'll start pitching to some artists. She's like, you know, you got to be like, she is start at the top. Like if it's a special song, no, hold off on that because I'm gonna get to so and so because they can have a number one and a massive record with it because she
Mm,
knows all those people. So
mhm.
it's beyond just like pitch it everywhere. It's like, oh, there's strategy. Oh, this one, oh, I got this one earmarked for so and so. I'm gonna wait till the time is right, and I won't drop it on their desk because I know them
Mhm.
and I can get it to them when the time is right. So don't go willy nilly pitching this thing out there to anybody with and without a record deal.
Yeah,
No,
well, it's like even in the pro circles, right? It's like, Craig Wiseman and Tim Nichols with
live like you're dying.
"Live Like You Were Dying," right? We heard that story from Chris Oglesby when we were
The climb
on the
conference,
Climb
yeah,
conference where he was like, "Yeah, that never got pitched." They called me down and said, "Hey, I think we got something here. You need to come down and check it out." So he goes down and listen to it, and I think they might have mentioned that this would be good for Tim,
I
you
can't
know?
remember, yeah, but that was the one
But
pitch.
I know nobody heard it except for Tim.
Yeah,
And
except
he
for
was
his
like
camp, yeah,
he was like, "Yep."
yeah. You start at the top. And so, just that mindset of oh, got to run out and get to whoever can cut it. Okay, no, well, we're gonna hang on to this one because I got so and so in mind. I won't
Right.
get it to them.
Yeah, there's here's your first down play,
Hmm.
and if you don't get the first and, if you don't get it into the end zone in this play, you got a second down play, you got a third down play, you
Right,
got a fourth down play. You know what I mean?
exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just that mindset. So like, what's the mentality of your team? Like writing with her has helped my mentality of just like you hear people talking more about let's get a cut, let's get a cut. Sometimes you know it's weird how many songs I've written in how many rooms, and that subject doesn't really come up. Like the end result isn't really talked about. It's almost like the end result is the song, which is a
Mm,
huge part of it and should rule the roost when it comes to that day. It is about that song and writing a great song. But
mhm,
remember, it's not done until it's number one. It's like that our job is to get all the way there. And if you're building a team with that mindset, then you're going to be more intentional about pitching, actually, getting it recorded for not just recorded like by an artist, but get it demoed, get it whatever. Or am I working with people who stay on these songs, or do we kind of act like our job is done once we have a work tape and we walk out of the room? So that's an important
yeah.
thing.
Hold on, I wanna add to that.
Hmm.
So, you know what I think about? I think about that we did an episode on this with, that it's like a 3-minute video, Snoop Dogg, and it's called The Gap.
Hmm.
Right, where he's explaining to another artist about the gap, and he has his, he's got his hands, and his hands are up, and I don't know how you explain this, but like one's up like chest level, and he's just got a flat sort of
Hmm.
hand, and then another one's up like above his eyebrows. It's a
Yeah.
gap, right? And and he's talking about how when you're rising up, um, it creates a gap between friends, right? So
Hmm.
he's talking about friends from like the hood that he had, and all of a sudden he starts to go up, and there's a gap. And that gap happens, and relationships change with the gap
Hmm.
simply because you're not around him that much. So, in order to keep the relationship intact the way it was, the gap has to close. So either those people have to come up,
Mhm.
or what the usual scenario is, the rising star comes down,
Right.
right? Because you're not loyal if you don't, stick
Mhm.
around and honor your homies, and, you feel bad inside because I think that's one of the hardest lessons in life that any successful human has to learn. And all successful humans have had to learn this is like how to let go of your friends,
Yeah.
you know? So when you're I've always, the band I toured with, it was like an interesting dichotomy because it was like my band in the sense that, I put it together. I was like, I think that the energy core of that, I was the
Mhm.
dilithium crystal
Yeah.
of that band. And we all had like superior drive,
Mhm.
but it was like me, and I wrote most of the songs, not all,
Mhm.
but most of them, and also, and I'm the front man,
Mhm.
right? And I'm the entertainer, but nowhere like, but without an argument, like the worst musician in the group.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I mean, JMO drummer. I mean, he's freaking. He's played with. I got pictures of him on stage playing drums with Eric Clapton at the Beacon
Woo!
Theater.
That
Eric Clapton. Why? Because he was with teching for the Allman Brothers, and that particular night, because the Allman Brothers would do like 10 days at the
Mhm.
Beacon Theater, and then the other JMO Johansson from the Allman Brothers, would be like, "Hey, JMO man, I think I'm gonna go see a." Because this is just how laid back it is in the Allman Brothers, right? Like, I think I'm gonna go see a Yankee game, man. You fill in? Yeah, man, I got you. And so he just played with Butch Trucks, or Butch would take a night off and JMO would play with Jam. Like they just fill in,
Yeah.
and he knows what to do. And then of course it's a Beacon Theater and it's 10 days. So anybody in New York that knows the Umbra is gonna go come down, hang out, and hop up on stage and sing a song. But
Yeah.
he's playing with Eric Clapton. I mean, that's how good he is, and him and Marty, our bass player, were smoking. Daryl was great. Not the worst musician. So I'm on this sort of upward trend with a bunch of guys who are on the same sort of trajectory that I am.
Mhm.
And there's a little bit of gap between us, but I'm the bottom guy, but I'm rising with them,
Yeah.
right? On some instances. In some instances, I'm pulling them up,
Yeah, you
because
bring different value and
different value. But the point being that if you're with writers out of because you feel like you're a bad person, if you're not writing with people who just aren't going to improve like you're going to improve
Mhm.
or just aren't at your level anymore, then
Yeah.
you're getting in your own way and it's only your fault. And F the loyalty thing and F this. No, it's like, man, you got like that's what Snoop Dogg was talking about. It's like you can't make stars. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you either are a star or you're not. And he tried. He's like, I spent a boatload of money trying to make this cat and this
Mhm.
cat and this cat a star. He like, what do they call it? What's the not the when you tell the end of a movie, what do they call that? When they
Spoiler
tell the
alert. Yeah.
spoiler alert, he doesn't use the word cat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
um, but he's saying, and so I've taken him out on tour. I've done this, I've done that, and like if you're not that
Mhm.
star, you're not that star. So they either got it or they don't at the moment in time that you're there. And you
Yeah.
want to be around people that got it and
Mhm.
that are interested in being better and doing the things you're doing and not carrying anybody because otherwise, to that you started this whole thing out by, this part of this show by just talking about it's who you surround yourself with, right?
Yeah.
And so if you're coming down because you feel guilty about and I don't care why you feel guilty. If it's internal, like you honestly feel that way, or you're
Mhm.
being made to feel guilty, the
Yeah.
the damage is still the same, right?
Mhm.
But if you're coming down, then you're not rising.
Yeah.
Right?
And it is tough, but does Aaron Rodgers still play ball with the guys that were in his junior high team or his high school team
Nope.
or his college team?
Nope.
No, he had to go. He got a chance to go pro, and he's playing with pros. That
Yep.
mean if he doesn't see on the weekend, well, I guess not on the weekend, in the middle of the week or whatever, off season. If he sees you
Yeah.
back home and he's one of his crew, he's out west and he sees one of the guys from college or Cal or whatever, and yeah, they may throw the ball around a little bit, just catching up. But he's not bringing you to training camp.
And it's not, you know
It's
what? And it's not
business.
the same relationship. I mean, and that's just
Yeah.
and that's just And that's about relationships. Like I call it shifting gears. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like with my true friends, okay, I can meet them. I haven't seen them in years, and we can pick up right where we left off because
Yeah.
they're my true friends. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But there's definitely a gear shift, and that's the true of JMO and Daryl, who were in my band. You know, we try to get together when we can. But we don't see each other for a while. You know, JMO still he tours with he's on road with Bon Jovi now. You know, he's like on major tours.
Yeah.
And Daryl's got his band up in Wisconsin and has got his thing. You know what I mean? So we don't get a chance to see each other. So the gear shifts, but we are way tighter when we're on the band because we're living together. You know what I mean? It's just
Yeah.
that's just the nature of a relationship. Don't confuse that with loyalty, because I tell you what, like a lot of people will throw the loyalty thing out there when they feel you pulling away because you're
Hmm.
starting to rise and the gap is being created, and
Hmm.
they're not really so concerned about the relationship as much as they're concerned about you're onto something and they're not right now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
by the way, as horrible as that sounds, it's like the person who's not onto something, maybe that's not what they're supposed to be onto.
That's true.
You know?
And
I'm
if they're not progressing because they're not putting in the work, or because
yeah.
they're not willing to pitch songs, or they're not willing to go out and get meetings or go play or do whatever the things are, then how is that being loyal to you? Right? 'Cause you're
Amen.
part of that teamwork. Like, hey, I'm getting results because I'm putting in the work. Now, maybe you're putting in the work, but you're not getting results because maybe your ceiling's not as high, which is not your
Yep.
fault. Or maybe it's because you're just not putting in the work because you're lazy, or you have other priorities because you really want to watch a football game over the weekend instead of, get your stuff together and record a
Yeah,
demo
you
or
got this
whatever.
Hollywood idea of what a songwriter is,
Yeah.
and your idea of what that is incorrect,
Yeah.
inaccurate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So who's not being loyal to the team here?
Yeah.
you know?
Exactly. Like, I can tell you this about the guys in Kid Gypsy, in my band. Like, we would all lie down in traffic for one another. We
Mhm.
all put the work in, and I mean lots and hours and hours and hours and hours of work because we are interested collectively in being awesome, you
Yeah.
know?
And that's what
And
you
if you're
need.
not with writers like that, you're screwing yourself.
True. So true. Yeah, and every part of the business. I mean, so that's the big thing. So don't import sand to the beach, and your team matters. You want to build it wisely. Here's the third point: get to know as many decision makers as possible. All right. So the story of a cut is often the story of relationships. The more and deeper relationships you have with decision makers in the music business, the better chance you have of getting cuts. It is a relationship business, it is a recommendation business. All right. So, I mean, obviously, as much as we talked about building your team and it's sand to the beach, and the artist is more likely to cut the song they wrote with their buddy than the song you wrote with your buddy if they don't know you. This is that thing again on so many levels. So decision makers, who are decision makers in the music business, it might be a publisher, right, who can decide to single song, put a contract on your song, or to pitch your song, or to sign you a publishing deal. It might be that person. It might be a producer helping decide what they cut for the record. It might be the artist deciding what goes on the record, or the label speaking into what's a single, what's not. All these different layers of decision makers, you want to get to know as many as possible. Um, like I learned this when I got my first publishing deal at Major Bob Music. Man, my end point was more in the room. My job is to write songs. Their job is to go get them cut. I'm at the publish because I was good about going and trying to meet decision makers that were publishers. So I got my publishing deal. Now I'm like, whew, I got to go write songs. This is the fun part. And it is the fun part, by the way, but it is not the only part. I wasn't going out there pitching my own songs. Uh, I was leaving that to them to hook me up with co-writes. My way of taking advantage of Monday morning church, because that was singled right as I was signing that deal. So I was new in that deal during the first major arc of that song, and when it was the hottest. And I was like, hook me up with the rights. That was how I was going to leverage that, the leverage that I created in the music business by
Mm,
having a single. And
leverage.
they were happy to do that. And I was like, y'all go pitch my songs. What I should have been doing, as well as meeting as many writers as possible, was going out and pitching my own stuff. Why wasn't I going, hey, I got a song in the top 10 right now. I'm going to go have some more meetings over at Sony at Arista. Hey, Jesse, Mike, Scott, what are some names and numbers? Introduce me so I can be a force multiplier. You don't have to be the only ones pitching my songs. I can be pitching my songs too. Introduce me
Mm-hmm.
to people. I started doing that on, say, year 3 of that deal, which happened in the last year of that deal, which might not have been the last year of that deal if I'd been doing that from the
Doing it
beginning.
year one.
Exactly. Well, so, but I remember going and starting to make my own pitch meetings. And I still could because I have a publishing deal. I've had a top 10, so I was able to start getting in some rooms. And I remember getting my first hold, like from in a pitch meeting. It wasn't my first hold as a writer, but first time sitting across um, from this guy that worked for it was for an Alan Jackson pitch actually, and the guy's name is escaping me at the moment, but he worked for Keith Stegall doing A&R for Alan's producer, and I played him the song. I think his name was Jason, and played him the song that I wrote with Jenny Farrell and Jeremy Spillman called "The Worm," and it's a funny song, but it's country and whatever. And anyway, you think life's, if you reach for the bottle because life's hard to swallow, you ought to try being the worm. It's about a bottle of tequila, right? And it's kind of from his perspective, the worm's perspective. Anyway, he just laughed and he's hitting his hand on the desk. He's like, "Oh my gosh, hold that for Alan." I'm like, I was flying out of that meeting. It ended up not getting
Yeah.
cut for Alan. I've still pitched it to him several times since, but I got a whole, and I was like, all right, and he's going to take my next call for the meeting because I
Mm-hmm.
planned something good. And Mike and Jesse and Scott didn't have to pitch that. Like I can do some of this stuff. And later when that deal ended and I was negotiating my next deal for felt like a year and a half where I didn't have pluggers plug in for me yet, I was still able to go back to some of those places, do some of those meetings, even though I didn't have the card of, well, I'm signed with Major Bob Music right now, or I'm signed with Peer Music or whatever. So you want to get to know as many decision makers. Another story about that is I've been riding with Byron Hill for a few years, several years at this point. Byron is in the National Songwriters Hall of Fame now. Um, he wasn't then; he was on his way, and thankfully, I didn't screw him up so much that he no longer got in. But he several hit. I mean, just man, so many hits. Wrote George Strait's first #1, "Full Hearted Memories," just ton of great songs. "Born Country" for Alabama. I mean, come on, these are some
Mm,
great cuts. Anyway, so
mm.
Byron and I have been writing buddies for a while, but he had been also producing some stuff. Like up in Canada on this artist named Gord Bamford, who was having top tens up in Canada. And I'm like, well, I know the producer and we've been writing. So finally I started just getting a little more, Byron and I were just writing stuff to pitch to like George Strait and whoever. Finally I was like, looking at that Gord stuff going, man, can I ride with y'all sometime? Like when he comes down, I'd love to get in the room with him. I dig what he does. And Byron's like, yeah, he gave me a couple albums to listen to prep. And he, got me on the books with Gord. And we wrote 3 songs, the 3 of us with Gord, and Gord cut all 3 of them, and one of them was a single of the year up in Canada. I knew the producer,
Nice.
and that got me in the room. It's like if I didn't know Byron, I wouldn't have gotten in that room with Gord, you know?
Yeah.
But I knew Byron through other people, it's all that networking thing. But a little bit of like, okay, I'm going to mention it. I'm not going to wait for him to mention it. I'm going to go, Byron, I'd really love to get in the room with you and Gord. Can that happen when he's down sometime? And I had Byron's trust because he'd written with me a bunch. I liked writing with me, and so I had his trust, know, like, and trust. Right? He knew me, he liked me,
Mm-hmm.
trusted me, so he brought me in. Thought I could add some value, and sure enough, it worked out well for all of us. But again, I knew a decision maker, and then I was in
Yeah.
the room with like both decision makers, the producer and the artist,
Yeah.
like both
There you
guys that
go.
are going to decide whether or not that song goes on the record. I was in the room with them.
Great
So
place to make a lot of relationships, by the way, for artists and stuff. Gonna be the Nashville Nights International Songwriting Festival in Denmark. You're gonna have a boatload of them in one place for 3 days.
that's
Captive
right.
audience. Come
That's
on
right.
down. Be your true self. Make some friends.
Exactly. So don't import sand to the beach. Your team matters. Build it wisely, and part of that team, get to know as many decision makers as possible, because they
Yep.
can't love you and cut your song if they don't know who you are, or they have a better chance of hearing your song if they know who you are. So that's just part of it too. Build that in. I know it's not as much fun to do all that legwork to, ask somebody for coffee when most of the time they don't have time for coffee, or to maybe it may feel awkward to go up to them at a workshop or National Nights International Songwriter Festival or all that stuff. But it's part of the gig, and it's a really, really important part of the gig. It's the part that
Mm-hmm.
makes the other stuff happen. It's the
Yep.
part that gets your song from A to B. Like after it's written, now it's at A. Great. Now you got to get to B, C, D, Z, whatever. And this is relationships that get it the rest of the way.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you can build the car and it's a nice sports car. It looks fast, but the relationships are the gasoline that make it go. It's
Yep.
going to look real pretty sitting in your garage. I can't get it to go anywhere. Why not? Because I don't have any gasoline. Well, what's the gasoline?
Yeah.
It's the relationships.
And that's true of every gig you've ever had. Like everybody listening to this podcast right now probably had at least one job in their life that they got through a relationship.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll get you in here. You need a
Mm-hmm.
gig? I got you, man. Come on. Whether that was McDonald's or like your lifelong career,
Yeah.
whatever that was, it was probably like, hey, come check this out. I mean, I've had a bunch and I've given a bunch,
Yeah.
because I know that person, I trust them, but I know they'd be good to do this and that. So this isn't just the music industry, man. This is just life.
Yeah.
And what's strange is the music industry isn't any different.
No, it's really not. It's just that our product is art and
Yeah.
debatable.
Yeah.
You know?
It gets to be a little more famous, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
And debatable.
Yeah. That is debatable. So, all right, here, let's go to another one here. Enjoy the journey. All right. This is huge. If you want to go pro, you got to be prepared for a marathon, not a sprint. If you don't, you're not going to enjoy every mile. Just get that out of the way. You're not going to enjoy every mile, but you need to overall enjoy the journey. If you don't have an attitude of gratitude and celebration along the way, if you delay gratification until your first number one, for example, or till you get that publishing deal or whatever, you're likely going to burn out long before you ever get that number one single or get that publishing deal. You want to work hard, you want to do the hard things, but you have to make sure you enjoy yourself along the way. So a way to kind of dive into this is, first of all, if you don't love writing songs, go find something else to do. If you're an artist and you don't love being on stage and meeting fans and doing that kind of stuff, you need to go find something else to do. Like, I've heard people say, you know, basically the thing is like, oh, the playing on stage, that's free. You're paying me to get on the bus, to ride, to practice, to tune up, to pay for all these people, my guitar tech, all that stuff. The show, I do that for free. I would pay to do
Yeah.
that. It's the
Yeah.
other stuff is what you're paying me for.
That's Minnie Pearl. Yeah. Oh, honey, I perform for free. They pay me to travel.
Exactly. Exactly. Like, you gotta love the work. I love writing songs. Love it.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
doing this podcast because I got to hang out with my buddy Johnny and geek out about music stuff. Like, that's
Likewise, my
fun.
friend.
And so
Yeah.
but do I love every part of it? Do I love, like, say, Songwriting Pro, where Johnny's kicking my butt about making lead magnets and putting together stuff for Facebook ads and having to do
Been injecting DNS records.
DNS records through your website hosting? No, I hate that. But I do like
Yeah.
progress. I do like
Yeah.
progress, and I do like growing, and it allows me to write more songs because I don't have to go work in the cubicle again. I get to do
Yep.
other stuff, and I get to be around creative people that I enjoy, and so overall, I enjoy the journey. Two of my closest friends, Anthony Oreo and Matt Klein, we had a game ball that we'd pass around. We're like, we need to enjoy this journey. Like we have in the climb community, we have New Heights. That's a way of
Yeah.
enjoying the journey. Like for Tracy Richardson, this episode, her thing was like, I'm playing out, I'm learning. Like
Yeah.
she's like, that's claiming that as a win, which it is. For other people, it's like, I got a song, or on the show Heels on Stars. And that's
Yeah.
a win. That's a win that other people
Yep.
can see, right? They're both wins
Yep.
and they're both valid. So Anthony and Matt and I, I bought this football and we wrote game ball on it, and we'd bring it to our co-writes. And when somebody had a good game, like somebody had a win to share, basically, they got the game ball. And
Nice.
the whole thing was to try to keep the game ball moving. Just try to keep it moving.
I love that.
You love to get it, but you don't want to keep it very long because that means the team's not doing great. So
That's a
somebody,
really good, by the way, that's a really good little measurement device to make sure that team, you're going back to your previous point, make sure the team you're on is always moving.
Yeah, like
If that game ball ain't moving around, then
yeah.
you need a different team.
Yeah, if it's on my mantle for too long, I need to be worried about what's up with the other guys on my team. Um,
Yeah.
so, like Anthony may get it because he got the house gig at Tootsie's or something. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Great live performer. That's a step in his artist career. Got it. And Matt might get it because he signed a publishing deal with Ray Stevens Music. Awesome. Congrats, Matt. Game ball worthy. But it might also be like, I got a hold, or I had a good meeting, or it didn't have to be like these big things. The goal was
Mhm.
forward momentum. It's a win. It's a win. Let's go. Even if other people can't see it, or it doesn't matter what might be a win for me at a certain point in my career, um, might not be one for you because you're further along on the journey. Like, I don't
Yeah.
celebrate, holds anymore. Okay, fine. But I do. That's a win for me.
Yeah.
Give me the freaking game ball,
Give me that ball.
Yeah. And so going back to your team, do stuff like that. I I think I mentioned before in here a long time ago on the podcast, but Nick Cage and Jim Carrey apparently are old buddies from like way back, like when they're both like had nothing going on because
Carving artist.
Jim
Yeah.
Carrey was in that movie Peggy Sue Got Married. He was in that movie like as a
I didn't know
nobody.
that.
Yeah, he was like just a bit little player, whatever. Wasn't like he's just like a little side character. And he was,
Right.
like, in the band with Nick Cage's character. He was, like, one of the
Okay.
doo-wop backup singers kinda thing. And anyway, but so they've been buddies for way back, and they had this little, like, troll doll, this ugly little troll doll that they'd pass back
Yeah.
and forth as a dumb little trophy, when one of them would have some career success.
I
And they'd
love
send
that.
them the ugly little troll doll, you know? And so it's super important that you enjoy the journey, that every song that you write that you enjoy that. Enjoy that. Even though most of them will never get cut, you have to enjoy the process of writing a song and go, oh my gosh, this is so great. I love this song. No one, yeah, may probably won't ever get cut because that's the math. But you know what? I love it. I'm going to work it. And whether or not it gets cut, I've already experienced a win with that song. Or, I got to hang out and, sit at a bar and chat with Tony Lane. Oh my gosh, that was so cool. That's a
We're gonna
win
have a
on the
lot of
journey.
those coming up.
I know, I'm looking forward to Tony Lane makes me nervous.
Life without passion is a horrible life, and
Yeah,
art without passion is unfathomable to me. That's just trash.
yeah. So,
Like, what you gotta have the
yeah,
passion to do it,
and you gotta
and the real
protect that.
passion, like the kind of passion that, like, I mean, for me as an artist and this business, because I've left it and been successful and come back to it, um, because I just couldn't see any other way. I mean, it literally was, "I'm going to be doing this, or I'm gonna be on the 6 o'clock news climbing a tower with a gun."
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I just could not just see myself doing anything else but being on the road, being an artist, and until I made that happen, we didn't stop, and then once we made it happen, there were new windmills to conquer,
yeah, for sure, yeah.
new hills to take. But yeah, if you don't have that kind of a passion for it, then um, yeah, you're gonna. I think you're destined for
Yeah,
mediocrity.
and you have to protect the joy of the journey, which might mean,
Yeah,
you know, yes, sometimes you do write with your buddy that's a good buddy, crappy writer, doesn't work hard, but you love the hang so much and it's just such a joy. Go. Do
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Okay? Now, he can't be where you put all your time because you won't grow.
Right.
But if you need that for just like, "Oh, this is old home week. Well, this is good for my soul." We sit around a campfire and we write crappy songs that he's gonna do nothing with, but I love the process. I love it. Oh, that was pure. It was pure, right? Because you may get so like, "It's gotta be up-tempo, positive, in this little box, and for this thing, and I won't write it if it's not because 'cause I'm desperate to it's gotta be" you can suck all the joy out of it. So,
Yeah.
go write something for yourself. Go write with a buddy. That's good. It's gonna go
I
nowhere.
know.
Like,
Like,
rip
I
it
know
at
we're I
hand
know we're
so
going
you
to
enjoy it, so it gives you fuel for the long run.
It's good for your artist heart and your
Yes.
artist soul too. Like my buddy Mike Ansovic, I mean, him and I started our first band together in 6th grade. He's arguably one of the top 10 ad guys in the country right now. I mean, big like when Sirius and XM merged,
Mhm.
all those cool commercials with David frickin' Bowie and Snoop Dogg and Elton John, those that was his stuff, man.
Yeah.
Like he's that good, right? And he has a lot of corporate accounts. And what's really funny is like on it, so he's the creative director, right?
Mhm.
He's got a dream of how it's going to look and feel.
Yeah.
And then he's got a buddy just like that's essentially the lyricist. Like he's the word man.
Yeah.
You know, when banks compete, you win. That's them, you know?
Yeah.
So it really is kind of like a melody, you know, in the music world, like a melody lyric guy, except this is like an art director word guy,
Yeah.
right? That's what they do. But it's super funny that the art, like the big corporate accounts, they win those because they have like all these awards that they get,
Yeah.
but they don't ever get the awards from the big corporate account jobs. They get the awards from these crappy little mom and pop shops that'll let them do whatever the hell they want to do, and they don't put the brakes on them, you know? So they
Yeah.
come up with this like wild ad for some little thing that maybe they did for free,
Mhm.
you know, or maybe they did for way below what they charge, but they get a lot of leash and they get to do what they want to do. They get that award. I can't remember what that award's called. It's like a big ad award. They got a bunch of them. And
Mhm.
then, of course, you know, Sirius XM's like, we want those guys. Okay, great. So we're gonna do this. Like, no. We gotta milk toast this to crap out.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're so big, we can't be cool. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like, and it's a pain in the ass. But I mean, that's it. Like, so they're doing both. And you have a lot of actors that'll do that, right? They'll do
Yeah.
the big blockbuster, and then they'll do for next to nothing. They'll do this little like super cool role in an indie film to keep their chops up and keep it. Yeah, find that balance, man, and love the journey of making the art. You know,
Heck
I
yeah.
love that.
So, last one because we're going on time. We'll have more in the future, but be intentional. If you enjoy songwriting, it's easy to get caught up in playing, like writing with whoever comes along, demoing whatever song kind of tickles your fancy, pitching sporadically. But you need to be intentional. You need to have purpose to your actions. Otherwise, you end up being like an octopus on roller skates. There's a whole lot of activity, but you're not really going anywhere, right? You don't want to be the
Yeah.
octopus on roller skates. You want to be intentional. So, like one thing I've done is I have a Trello app on my laptop. You can also get on your phone. It's basically just project management. It's like a digital stack of 3x5 index cards, and you can do these projects with all these cards under it. And so what I've noticed was that a lot of my songs were falling through the cracks. I'd write these songs, we'd be excited about them, get a work tape or
Mm,
whatever, and just kind of move on to the next song. I was like, there's gold in there, Jerry. there's
yeah.
good stuff
There's
in
golden
here
in our hills. Yeah.
that if I'm just fire and forget, and my co-writers fire and forget because we have other writes going on. Like, what's going to happen with these songs? Like, it's just going to kind of be happenstance of something that happens with them, whatever. It's like I want to be more
Kind of like
intentional.
making babies and not raising them.
Yeah,
Anyway.
exactly. It's like you need to raise them. And so I started this list, this project management list, and I have different files. So I have like songs to finish, right? So I'll have a card
Mm,
for each song that is just out there, like, oh yeah, we still need to finish one, so I don't forget it. I have what songs still need work tapes because you're working on Zoom. You may not record it right there in the room because Zoom is such a big thing right now that oh yeah, they still need to record that and send it to me. So I have a list of that so it doesn't fall through the cracks. Like songs that I really like that we need to confirm if they need a demo. And once they've confirmed they need a demo, they move over to the to demo list. Then they move over to the demos in progress list. And then I need to upload them to SongSpace when the demo's done because otherwise I can't pitch them if they're not on SongSpace. And just that kind of stuff. And on my good days, I'm in there every day looking at that, going, okay, oh yeah, that song still needs to be finished. I need to reach out to so and so for a co-write to get on the books and finish that. Or oh yeah, what's going on with that demo? I need to email or text so and so about that, or just to keep the ball moving. Like, and sometimes you go, okay, I wrote it. It's not really one to demo. It's done. It is complete.
mhm.
It did what it's supposed to do. I did my reps that day. I wrote the song, but I'm not really seeing a bigger future for this. Archive it. Done. I cataloged it. It's in my catalog. It's fine, but I don't. It's complete. Others aren't complete until you're pitching it it ain't done until it's number one, right?
Mhm.
So, but it's not going to happen on its own. And so, being intentional about that, about going and kind of moving it all the way through the steps, the ones that deserve to go all the way through the steps. But there are other things about being intentional about making relationships. I mean, which is part of the reason I do Songwriting Pro and do events and that sort of stuff. It makes me build relationships with people. We have the music industry pitch event, which by the time this drops, I think will be maybe the day before the deadline. So get your songs in at songwritingpro.com/music industry pitch for Gary Chapman. He's a hit, CCM artist, and he's looking for songs for his next record. I've never met Gary. I used to watch him on like TNN on. He had a talk show on like the Nashville Network or whatever, like
Yeah, I remember that.
Country Live or whatever. And I've heard his songs and stuff, but I've never met him. But now through Ray knows him, so I, doing those events. So that's one of the reasons I do that. So now I'm gonna get to hang out with Gary Chapman for an hour and a half on a night, playing them songs and DJing and getting to be hopefully my, nice self that might lead to something else, or doing interviews. And part of that is like being intentional, finding another way to
Yep.
build relationships. And I do
Yep.
that thing about, I catalog how many people I reach out to, how many touches I do in a day. And I have a goal of like 10 people in the industry, a touch a day.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, if I'm following up, texting somebody about, hey, we're going to demo this. Who do you want to get to sing it? That's a touch. So that's kind of helping with the record part. It's helping with the access part. And I catalog that stuff and I get a mark it off my calendar if I get my 10 for the day. Being intentional, because the good
Yeah.
stuff rarely happens on accident.
Yeah.
Almost bad stuff happens by accident all the freaking time. Good stuff doesn't happen that much by accident. But the thing is, the more you're intentional, the more the happenstance, the happy stuff happens to happen to you. Wow, happens to happen to you. Yes. So, the harder I work, the more intentional I am, that the luckier I get.
Yeah.
That starts happening too, because I was intentional about going to write every day at Major Bob and writing every day. That first year of that deal, well, you know what? Oh, the bad unluck was that Bo Allen didn't show up for a co-write, or whoever I was supposed to write with that day didn't show up, and Bo Allen was supposed to write with Casey Kessel and Hillary Scott that day, and he for some reason couldn't make it that day. But I'm there. I'm being intentional. I'm still showing up, like going down to the row, like what's up? And Hillary and Casey come out going, he didn't show up. I'm like, well, why don't we work on something? And so they call up another guitar player, John Armstrong, and Hillary and Casey and I got together and wrote a song called "A Woman Scorned." And if you know the name of Hillary Scott, because she's later became the lead, one of the leads of Lady A, and they cut that song that we wrote that day because I showed up, and I was not expecting, So that was that lucky? Yes, I did not know Hillary Scott. No one did. She was still at MTSU in college, but she knew someone else. My person didn't show up. Their person didn't show up. Look at that! How lucky I got. Kind
Yep.
of.
But you wouldn't have been lucky if you didn't show up.
Exactly. How lucky I
You
am to win the
wouldn't
lottery.
have even known
Yeah,
that
and I
that
wouldn't have even known.
opportunity existed.
Yeah. So,
Funny how that
it's
works.
like how lucky I am to win the lottery. Yeah, but it wasn't luck that got me the lottery ticket. Paid for that
Mhm.
sucker. Showed up,
That's
I
right.
went to the place,
That's
so
right.
anyway, so just recapping, because this is a long one. I don't usually go this long. Don't try to import sand to the beach. Your team matters. Build it wisely. Get to know as many decision makers as possible. Enjoy the journey and be intentional. And tune in. We'll talk about some more at a later date. But hey, thanks for hanging in here. We have a gift for you. It's a
There we go.
songwritingpro.com/gift. Sometimes they rotate through. It might be 5 hours of free video content, interviewing hit makers for like Lauren Daigle and Garth Brooks and Blake Shelton and Kenny Chesney. It might be an ebook that distills some of this stuff and other stuff. You just never know what you might find there. So songwritingpro.com/gift. And it's my gift to you for hanging in with us for over an hour. Thank you.
There you go. All right, guys, that brings us to the end of another Killer Climb episode. Send in if you're an artist and you have a track that's finished, whether it just got finished or whether it's been out for a while, whether you have or you don't have a music video for that finished track, send in the track, send in the lyrics to info@daredevilproduction.com and put it in throw your hat in the ring for the video content challenge. We'll get you on the show, and Brett and I will, with you, are going to brainstorm and create a whole bunch of different content ideas that we can use to help you promote that song out. So we want to see you have that happen. Join the C.L.I.M.B community. Follow the podcast wherever you do podcasts, and tell a friend about it. This podcast exists because we want you to win, so keep on climbing.
And we'll see Brad Mays in the honorable mention of American Songwriter Magazine's lyric contest. By the way, mention
Drip.
that. Brad, song called Drip. He sent it in for a song titled Challenge. We worked on it. He worked on it, and it's getting some accolades. So congrats, Brad. Just saw that in the new issues.
Salute, man. I love that.
In there. But anyway,
yeah,
keep on
getting
climbing.
Getting some press.
And impress.
Come on.
Yes. So keep on climbing. We'll see you at the top.